This is the new Suzuki Swift Sport, and this is why you should consider buying one as an affordable sports car. The 2017 model year Suzuki Swift Sport is 50 kilograms lighter than that of the newest model, and that's because it doesn't have the hybrid system that comes with the 1.4 litre engine, and this model, in my opinion, is the one to have for that reason. Now, I mentioned this car's weight, and this car is an absolute featherweight at only 975 kg. So weighing less than a metric ton and having 140 horsepower or thereabouts from the 1.4 turbo, this is definitely a very fun and nippy little car. So being such a fun, lightweight little car, they have earned their right as a Nürburgring taxi. Now what that entails is, at the Nürburgring you can rent these particular cars, albeit slightly modified, to run around the ring. Now if that's not a good test for a car's reliability and its capability on track, I don't know what is. Another reason to get this particular model over the current hybrid model that's available, the brand new model, is that this, the pre-hybrid version if you like, has a larger turbo, so that's much better when you're looking at modifying this particular car, looking to eke out a little bit more power. So not only do you lose a little bit of weight, you also gain a little bit of power in the world of modifications. You know, if you do want to fit an intercooler, a downpipe, an exhaust, air intake and get a remap done, that sort of work will net you around 50 horsepower and around 190 horsepower, 200 possibly, depending on the components fitted, or that's what's seen on the internet as we speak. Going beyond that 200 horsepower though, you do need to change the turbo out. Even in this model with the slightly larger turbo, you do have to change it out for a larger internal turbine. They do make them in the same housings, but the turbine inside that turbo does need to be enlarged slightly. Doing so will take your Suzuki Swift up to 225 horsepower and beyond. And there has been an example of this particular car by CTC, which are a UK based tuning and development company for the Suzuki Swift and a number of other Suzukis and Hyundais as it goes at the moment. They managed to squeeze out just over, I think it was 270 or 280 horsepower from the standard internals on this particular engine, which is impressive to say the least. That's double the horsepower that this thing came out of the factory with. And the chassis isn't a bad one either. As well as this thing being quite well rehearsed at the Nürburgring, it was also the front-wheel drive chassis of choice for the tuning company and legendary Japanese tuning company HKS. They used the Suzuki Swift platform, the 2017 onwards chassis if you like, for the TRB04 front-wheel drive time attack car. Now they did utilise a 4G63 or, to me and you, a Mitsubishi Evo engine and drivetrain to send the power to the front wheels still. Now I have no doubt whatsoever that this chassis was used purely for its lightweight, but there will have been some element of its handling as well in there in order for it to achieve the lap times that it did. HKS were able to achieve a 55.5 second lap time in a front wheel drive Econo box like this, which says a lot in my opinion for the chassis and its capability, and it's quite exciting in my opinion for what's to come for this particular car as far as HKS chassis modifications, and a lot of them are already available obviously, but yeah, there's a huge catalogue from HKS and various other tuners for this particular car. Because of its lightweight though, in standard form it still achieves a 0 to 60 in 7.6 seconds, and I'll also vouch for the car's amazing fuel economy. Even just driving it to and from the shops, you know, really short journeys, we're averaging about 41 miles per gallon on this particular car over 300-400 miles, and that is purely to the shops and back. Very urban driving in comparison to your extra urban motorway miles, which I'm sure it would do even better with. Now let's go on to the car's rivals, because we all know a car like this is going to have rivals of a similar size, similar power, similar performance perhaps, but perhaps not the similar price bracket. Now, one of the rivals, or its main rival in my opinion, just from quantity of vehicles sold, will be the Focus ST. Now, in my opinion, the 197 horsepower, brilliantly handling chassis, it is a very, very nice car, but the one thing that sort of drew me away from it is that it's just not Japanese, and it's a 3-cylinder as well as the new model. I'm sure the 3-cylinder is capable, and I'm sure there's many examples out there where it's putting out just as much horsepower as this can on its standard block, but There's something about 3 cylinders, I don't like the way they sound, they concern me with reliability and their unbalanced nature. There's just a lot of things that don't necessarily sit right with me for a sports car. That being said, it is a whole second quicker 0 to 60. It weighs approximately 100 and 150 kilos more than this does, and as a result it gets a little bit less MPG. When I say a little bit less on the books, it says it gets 6 miles per gallon less than this does. Fiesta offer an acclaimed 44.4 miles per gallon, whereas Suzuki a 50.4 miles per gallon is claimed. The other rival then to this car would be the Vauxhall Corsa VXR. Now, with 202 horsepower to be exact, but a similar weight addition to this particular chassis at 100 to 150, depending on the spec, more than this particular car weighs. It does have a quicker 0 to 60, a whole second faster again to be exact, so the Corsa and the Fiesta are very good rivals in my opinion. But what you won't have is that increased MPG, that increased fuel economy that this car offers for just as much fun in my opinion. The Corsa unfortunately being even worse than the Fiesta, at about 38-39 miles per gallon. The next rival worth mentioning then in my opinion would be the Abarth 595. Now that car, although a lot smaller than this car, not seating 4 adults, half as comfortably as what this car does, still weighs 50 kilos more. Now there are a lot of different models of 595s, and ISO 0 to 60 is anything from 6.7 right up to 7.8 seconds, and with those 0 to 60 times this could slightly beat it or be left in the dust by one. But in my opinion that's the least practical of all these cars, and if you're getting a little car, a little city car, you want it to be practical, or at least that's my experience of small hatchbacks, small little hot hatches. Now let's cover some bad bits then, because there always are some. In my opinion the 0 to 60 times could be a little bit better if the power was brought up a little bit, but that's nothing that the aftermarket can't resolve. Another point I'd like to make is that with the torquey little 1.4, that turbocharged torque that you do get, the car could really do with a limited slip differential. And I know that's quite an expensive part for a manufacturer to put on such a small economy car like this, but it is something that Ford offers as an optional extra. And I'll add that so does Vauxhall with the performance package. Another point that I'd like to bring out is that this car has been designed in a way where its throttle is cut when you try and left foot brake. Now I did try that to try and appease the diff from slipping as much as what it was doing under hard acceleration on the exit of corners and things like that. When you do get a little bit too eager on the throttle, that's something that I learned in the Honda Civic when driving that passionately, and it just doesn't work in this model. Apart from those 2 points then, the Swift really does tick all the boxes for what you would want out of an affordable, small, hot hatch. The traction control isn't too invasive when giving it a good scraping. You can disable the traction control and all the other elements that try to aid the driver, so you can get quite a raw feel out of this car even though it is a modern car. The steering's weighted really well. You do get quite a nice bit of feedback from it. The gear selector is nice and notchy and very, very precise. The seats that I'm currently sat in, they hug you really, really well. They're really nicely bolstered, and overall the handling, there's very little body roll and it does handle very, very well. If anything, I would say that you can introduce in this car some lift-off oversteer should you wish to do that. It's very, very well balanced for a front-wheel drive car and something this size. I didn't expect it to rotate quite as well as what it does in standard form. Another positive that I would add is that the Swift doesn't come with those stereotypes, those pop and bang map McDonald's car park stereotypes that come with the first 2 rival cars that I mentioned. That aside, I hope you enjoyed this particular video. I hope you found this review useful, and if you do have any questions, please drop them below because I'll more than happily answer those questions. But yeah, I couldn't recommend this car enough. I think it's built brilliantly. I think it's very, very, very fun for what it is. Really cool little car. So please hit the thumbs up if this video was helpful to you, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and check out the thanks button below as well if you want to support the channel, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.